the task force noted that there were two incidences of alleged financial mismanagement stroke embezzlement towards the end of the financial year and of 2021 as well as 21-22, involving approximately 600 million in 2021 and 400 million in 21-22. The two incidences are being investigated by the DCI and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption. So a lot of documents which we could have looked at are still there, but also we felt that we must let them do also their work. But nevertheless, we also looked at the financial movements around those 2021 and 2023 towards the end of financial years to see to what extent this 600 and the 400 as a global sum are likely to be true. The task force therefore reviewed and concurred with the internal audit report of 2021 dated 29th August. The analysis of the data contained in the subject matter report findings were: 1, there were irregular transfer of funds. There were irregular transfer or payments of funds from various county bank accounts. The transactions were carried out in breach of the provisions of the Public Finance Management Account. So there was some irregular transfers. There were also doubtful payment claims to individual staffs. During the financial year 2021-22, Kenya shillings 780 million was paid to various individual staff for recurrent expenditure. The payments involved significant amounts paid to individuals purportedly for training activities that are yet to be verified and are under investigation by the DCI and EACC. This amount probably include the 600, which maybe people are saying were misappropriated or allegedly misappropriated. In addition, other payments made to individual staff in similar nature, totaling 296 million, were paid from Impress account. As I said, there's a big amount being paid for Impress accounts, which actually should be for very petty amounts. So 296 million during that year went to this Impress account and went out. Now, we sort of identified this 700, this what would be the payments involved. There is, from the Development Bank account, there was 496 million, which we believe was contrary to the section of the finance, public finance management. On Siaya main salary account to Equity Bank, these are non-salary payments of about 53 million, which are contrary to the PFM account. You see, the public finance management are very specific how the monies of the Impress can be used. So we found that these were irregular. There is the retention account. I come again to the retention account from development amount, 10 million, which was paid, again, contrary to PFM Act. And this was a singular transfer of 10 million, okay, on 16/7/2021, July 2021. And what we call of the project management account, another account which we believe, which again could be a source of misuse, there was 77,800,000 which was paid for a special purpose account. We are going to detail in annex these payments in the final report, which is going to be on the 20th of January. Now, there is the issue of, that was relating to issues of 600. Now there's the issue of this 400 million, which was, we found voucher totaling 406 million were processed in IFMIS between 1st July and 13th July. In other words, this money went out, were processed very fast within a period of 2 weeks. And I think this is the concern which we are having about the 400. And we've analyzed these amounts. We find that there were payment made to assembly or payment which were put into IFMIS, all right? Because this was the end of the year and the county must have been rushing to pay out money before IFMIS closes. We found that they had input payment made to assembly staff of 9 million. I'll do just the millions, not, Payment made to individual for county government operation were 33 million. Payments made to creditors, which is suppliers and contractors, 68 million. Allowances to staff was 2 million or about 3 million. Then again transfer to interest account was 285 million. And other payments of about 7 million. And all this total about the 406, which was input in the system to be paid. Now, so of the aforesaid vouchers, which we totaled 406 million, which were processed between 1st of July 20 within the 2 weeks and 13th July, we only vouchers totaling 277 had been paid by 13th before IFMIS closed. So one thing we must make clear, although the allegation said it was 400, which we totaled 406 million, they had been put in the system for payment. But what we found out to have actually been paid out of the 406 million is 277. In other words, the balance was still in the system and have not been paid. So the allegation should be a bit moderated to almost 277. Paid at that time. So we don't know, we are still going through the pending bills. We don't know if it will be, we're still looking at that. And as at the time IFMIS was closed. The allegation is that the amount totaling 406 was embezzled is therefore incorrect. And the correct amount which was paid during that period is 277. Okay. And the total will give you how these amounts were paid, the 277. I don't need to detail it out here. So that gives you the position of the 600, which is still under investigation. The 400, which we said is really not 400, it's 277, which we are still going, which were paid at that time. But we are still going on with our pending bills because some of these are finding themselves in pending bills. And this is why we asked, we could not have given you a full report. But in the final, we are going to have full detailed report on the balance. Now, the other area is the human resource management. What we have finished with is exactly all the budget, IFMIS, the critical accounts which we felt were at high risk, and the other allegations and so forth. The other place which are of concern to us is the management of the people, which is the human resource management. The County Public Service Board is the principal employment agency for the county government. The board advises the county assembly and the executive and its agency on matters of human resource in line with its mandate and in exercise of powers given under the provisions of the Act setting up the board. While the board ought to have functional and operational autonomy as stipulated by the County Government Amendment Act, many county governments place them under the county departments responsible for public service, and Siaya is no exception. So it's a board which been said, but some place it under the internal department. The Siaya County Service Board operates under the County Department of Governance and Administration, and therefore reports to the Chief Officer Governance for its operations. The HR department of the county is delegated to function, is a delegated function of the County Service Board. And issues to the county executive and administered through institutional arrangement, including the County Human Resource Management Advisory Committee, authorized officers, Directorate of Human Director, and the payroll management. So behind the Public Service Board, you have all these HR processes which should be supporting it, and which the Public Service Board delegates to the department of what we call Human Resource Department. From the analysis and document presented and interviews conducted, it emerges that there are key challenges with respect to human resource management, which are linked to, firstly, the authority and autonomy of the board. Secondly, effective delegation of its power and functions, and the control of HR function, i.e. control in terms of the establishment, recruitment, career progression, remuneration, and performance management. So we feel that in that area of Public Service Board, there is more autonomy should be given, and there should be delegation which is clear to the HR, but this is not clear. And it is very manifest in the way payroll, for instance, is managed. You know, the HR basically on a monthly basis, there is a payroll which pays the people. And I would like to talk about that. The county payroll is run in two separate platforms. There is the staff who have personal numbers and are paid through what you call the integrated personnel and payroll database as required by the regulation. Now, all counties have that. You know, you have this IPPD, what you call the integrated personnel and payroll database, which gives people unique numbers. And this is important because when people start talking about ghost workers, that number becomes very important. Now, there is also, we found that there's a manual payment, which is a list of people to be paid submitted by respective departments, and which is prone to manipulation. An analysis of data contained in the manual payroll for financial year 2021 and 21-22 revealed a lot of inconsistencies. For example, during the month of July, going back to month of July 20, the manual payroll contained payment to staff members with personal numbers. The explanation given for this anomaly that the IPPD system was not configured for payments of rent allowance, arrears, and leave commutation turned out to be untrue. So the reason we were given why certain people were not in IPPD was because there were unique payments like, allowances or arrears and so forth. But this is not true because the IPP caters for all that. The management of IPP platform is through access rights, and this is going to be important. The access right is provided to particular people for their specific function. This is to guard against possible manipulation of the system through falsification of entry or entry of fraudulent data. Upon query of the list of persons that have access rights to the system, the National Department for Personnel Management indicated that there were 14 staff members of HR who have access to change things in that system. It is possible that unauthorized parties may have been granted access to IPPD system. This is an area of concern that requires urgent investigation and action. Now, this leads me to the question which almost every county talks about, what you call the ghost workers. With many people entering the system unauthorized, there's a very high risk that that IPPD perhaps also contained ghost workers. And then there is another payroll which we run, which we call manual, which we had inconsistent figures, which we feel also is really prone to abuse in terms of ghost management. So who is a ghost worker? So when you hear ghost, a ghost worker is generally an introduction into the system, the payroll system, through internal payroll management. On the other hand, it is linked to fraudulent banking transactions. So you have the bank and you have somebody in the payroll who inject false or inexistent persons. And they must then also have, at the end, also how to get that money out at the bank. So it's linked also to the fraudulent banking transaction. There are others that created through duplication of names in different payment points, through analysis of the extracted data from the IPPD and manual payroll. The task force identified anomalies which could be indicative of existence of number of ghost workers. The anomalies identified included double payment through both the manual and IPPD, duplication of names, falsified identification numbers with less than, identification number in Kenya must be more than 7 digits. We found some with 5 and some with 6, which means those were falsified IDs. And the absence of identification number, basically. There are others which were paid without identification, without IDs. Moreover, the report of the head count, there was, in fact, we commend the county because they took an initiative to try and pay everybody out by check, so that the idea is if a person did come collect the check, they obviously maybe were non-existent, or people feared because they were not true employees. And we noted that the checks which were uncollected checks ranged between 110 and 141, which suggests that why were these individuals afraid to come? Or were they really existing, or were they ghosts? We are still looking at that because we are trying to compare more records to come back to the exact situation which we should have. But one thing is, neither the county service board nor the director of human resources was able to give clarity on the number of staff on, first of all, on manual payroll. And it is to be noted that this manual payroll, on average, monthly average manual payroll, incurs the county an average of about 53 million every month. So you can see how important the abuse there. If the abuse in the manual and what you call casual payroll is a problem, you probably have them through ghost workers. And you can see the amount which every month is paid. This on average, which we analyzed, is paid under this manual payroll or casual payroll. The Public Service Board denied the existence of manual payroll, whereas the HR gave conflicting information as to the total number of personnel on casual employment terms. This is an area of concern because it is indicative of lack of internal control and creates opportunity for abuse and possible introduction of ghost worker. We will then make a recommendation. I think that as you now begin your term, you need to take one day when all the CC must look at, have a head count, and we can manage that. Project management fees collected since inception. We started on 2015, 2016, and 2018, 2019 is Kenya shillings 173 million. This figure relates to 5% of all project contract sums retained during the financial years that I've referred to by the county government. This figure was obtained from a parallel ledger of the IFMIS system maintained by the Treasury and the actual management fee collected as detailed. In 2016, 2015, we collected 24 million. 2016, deducted from the 24 million. We had 2016, 2017, 85 million. 2017-18 was 17 million, and 2018-19 was 46 million, and that's the total during the year of 173, which was collected. Yet, of that amount, there was, we've done, this comprised what? The payments made to works, roads inspectors. We paid roads inspectors, Kenya shillings 30 million. We paid payments made to other individuals, which are not PMC members, were 49 million, and transfers out of this account of 84 million. And the PMC were only paid 35 million. So the 173 did not go to the use of paying the PMC community level, because they also do the job of overlooking the project being implemented at the ground level. So you can see that this was serious abuse of quite a big amount of money, and especially this, which were made a transfer of 84 million. This will come later on in part of what you're talking about, the allegations which you're talking about. The information available to the task force indicates that PMC members are now paid by contractors unofficially. In effect, the county has created a rent-seeking system which adds to the value of the contract. So we're now having the contractors paying, so that adds on to the cost of. And also raises the issues of that it can be now manipulated for other improper use. So we've responded in terms of financial management on the issues of the budget, the issues of the IFMIS, the issues. We picked just certain important areas where we feel there was a high risk of abuse, retention money. We picked another area where we feel there was an abuse of what we call the project management committee funds. The other area which was important was the pending bills. On the pending bills, following the assumption of the office of the current governor, there was an issue of issued a moratorium on the payment of pending bills. And a committee, a subcommittee was set up by the county executive committee to look into payment of pending bills and to control and procedural guideline on the interest, procurement and identification of quick win intervention on the various sectors. The CEC subcommittee then developed a report on pending bills, which is in force, which is the focus of some of the findings which we are making now. As I remind you, the details of individual payment we are still going through. These are the global sums. The amount of pending bills, there were several people we had to report to the amount of pending bills. There was a control of budget back in Nairobi, and at that time we had the control of the budget amount of, as at 30th June, was 705, but I think eventually it was corrected to be 695. How? 697. So there was a difference of about 5 billion, what were presented and what was eventually reported to the control of the budget, which is 695. So at the control of the budget, we had 697. However, the subcommittee, which I've just referred to, indicated that the amount, indicated an amount of 1 billion and 36 million as the pending bills. And this was maybe around November. So between the period reporting to the COB, and there was an increase of pending bills of about 300 million. The differences, first of all, gave us a worry because indicative of an internal problem relating to maintenance of what you call credits as people who we owe for the pending bill. Now, an analysis of that report of the subcommittee indicated the following. For a large number of projects, the contract sum at the time of award exceeded the budget available, which is clear case of overcommitment, which is irregular. There is possible abuse of LSOs. LSOs means the local service order, as well as local purchase order, which are used to initiate payment for works which ought to have duly been signed and enforceable contracts stipulating payments plan, which is the procurement plan. So we didn't have this. There is therefore a risk that LSO issued in this manner may be used to override existing contract terms and create a window for overpayment. With respect to procurement of infrastructure works, the county seems to have been a set of preferred contractors that account approximately for 70% of the total amount of the pending bills. The data obtained from the pending bills report shows that projects are clustered and advertised as a single project to compromise competition and limit access to these contracts to a few preferred individuals. So the way the contracts are packaged and divided, it seems to go to a few seemingly preferred individuals. And there was, first of all, as an issue, we noted that the pending bills, that a total sum of pending bills of 379 million, that was the spending, while the contract sums which we reviewed were only 244. So there's the pending bills of 379 million, but the contract sums was only for 244. So that difference is a question of which we have to look at as we go through the individual pending bill before the 20th of January. Now, so the pending bills we are still going through. There is the issues of the amounts difference from what we reported in Nairobi and what we are having, And there is the differences between the report and some of what we've established in the total contracts, which we are still looking at. That's why we had to go now to every individual contract. And you can imagine for recurrent budget, there are so many of small individual contracts, and also for development. So that is going to come, is work which we are still doing and which will come in the final report.
Normally don't spare anybody or hide any facts. So I know what is typical of Mr. Edward Uko is that he's a man of integrity, and the team is a team of men and women of integrity. And we have no qualms for the committee to be as brutal, so long as it's factual, as possible. And there should be no sacred cows. And that is the basis upon which we found confidence in the committee. So we're hoping when we finally get the report, it will be a final report that speaks to the kind of audits and work for which Mr. Uko and the members of the team are famous for.